Hello and welcome to fresponse.com. Today we're going to cover fresponse version 7, specifically the examiner tools under Linux. You'll see we chose the Sans Sift kit to do this demonstration. It's got a lot of tools and technology, a lot of things you can leverage and expand using fresponse. Alright, so let's open up a terminal and let's take a look at these packages. fresponse version 7 is going to come in two different packages, the fresponse 7 Win and the fresponse 7 package. Essentially what these are going to give you is going to give you not only the ability to connect to fresponse, but also the ability to deploy to remote Windows systems. Alright, so we're going to install these packages and we're going to make sure we have all of our dependencies met. You're going to see a lot of commands run today. Please don't worry about copying them down. We're going to provide all those commands separately on the website, so it should be easy for you to walk along and follow this. Once we've got fresponse installed, we're going to take a look at var-lib fresponse. Really, that's where we keep all of our configuration information as well as state data while the software is running. So we need to first make sure that our user account has permissions to access that directory. We're going to make sure that our user account can read and write to it and then essentially owns the different folders. Once we've done that, we need to take a look at Fuse. fresponse version 7 uses Fuse to mount live file targets from remote machines, basically taking remote disks and volumes and turning them into live files. We need to make sure that our user can access and run the Fuse tools. Really, most of the commands you're seeing here today are all around making sure that our user account, a user account other than root, can run these options and commands. Next, we're going to take a look at the Fuse configuration file. This configuration file, by default, is going to restrict access to root only. We're going to go ahead and remove that restriction and allow other users, namely us, to run the software. Now, once we've handled all of these things, we need to take a look at our licensed dongle, specifically UDEV rules. When you insert the licensed dongle into the machine, UDEV is going to take over and assign specific criteria to the device. So we've added rules to allow other users to access that device, to access that dongle, such as us, so that we can run things like our license manager. We're going to want to use the UDEV admin tools to reload our rules and to set a trigger. This will allow us to run our license manager directly from this Sift workstation. So let's go ahead and take a look at the graphical interface. Yep, that's right. There's a graphical interface now for fresponse version 7 under Linux. So this graphical interface is going to give us all the features, with the exception of cloud, that you've seen with fresponse for Windows. So let's go ahead and first start out by firing up our license manager. We can see below here that the license manager server is offline, so let's go ahead and start it. We're going to want to set a username and password. We can use the defaults. The username and password is what we use to control access to fresponse. It's no different than in the Windows environment. You can see now we've got our license manager running. Down below we've got our dongle number, our software version, as well as our expiration. Let's go ahead and deploy. We're actually now able to deploy not just to Linux systems, but also to Windows systems directly out of this console. So let's go ahead and put in a domain account and use that to deploy and start the software. First, we'll put in our domain, a test user account, and a password. So what this is going to do is it's going to use Samba, or SIFS, which is Microsoft's Windows networking, to deploy and start the subject software on a remote machine. So we'll select our user and we'll go ahead and add a host, and we could put in an IPv4, v6, or host name and use that to locate a machine to deploy to. So let's go ahead and select that machine and go through the deployment process. As we said before, deploying the software entails copying the executable over and registering it as a service. When the service starts, it will turn around and reach out to our license manager, validate that it's active, and we'll see it on the subjects panel. There you can see it there, the host OS. You can see the information about the subject edition and version information, as well as the platform. Now let's go ahead and do some deployment to non-Windows systems. Non-Windows systems deployment is done via SSH SFTP. So what we're going to do is use an SSH key. We're going to use a root account and use our private key to deploy the software to multiple remote machines in the environment. So let's go ahead and put in some machines that we can deploy to. We select our user and we go to add a host. We're going to go ahead and put in multiple machines. We're going to deploy today to Linux. We're going to deploy to OS X. We're going to deploy to AIX. And we're going to deploy to Solaris. So we're going to cover the gamut. We should be able to see all the different platforms at one time. All right, so let's go ahead and select and go through the deployment process. Again, deployment is done via SSH and SFTP. So we're going to copy over an executable, we're going to put it in a specific location, and then we're going to start that executable. As it starts, it's going to reach out and talk to our license manager. Talking to that license manager means it's going to appear in our licenses panel, or our subjects panel rather. Here we can see all of our subjects here, all the different platforms, and then selecting individual subjects gives us target information. So we can see the different physical devices. Let's go ahead and take a look at some targets. We're going to go ahead and mount under Windows our vol.c and our physical memory targets. It's going to give us two different ways to look at the software. Alright, so when we select to mount a target, we're going to go ahead and place them in our desktop. This is a departure from the way F-Response worked before. What we've done now is created a folder with the remote machine's name, and inside of it there are two additional directories, one for each target. Inside those directories reside two individual live files. Now, it's an interesting concept to think about. What this means is we have individual files in those directories that represent the actual physical devices on the remote machine. You can see based on their size that it matches the size of the actual physical device. Now, for instance, in the case of physical memory, we can actually access the live file directly. But in the case of the physical device, we're going to map them, or the drive rather, we're going to map this as a physical device on our machine. So we're going to use LO setup. LO setup is a loopback device. So we're going to create a loopback device. In this case, we're going to call it dev loop 0. And we're going to turn around and map that vol.c device as a loopback item. This is going to immediately create a physical drive. Now we're going to turn around and create a mount point, and we're going to use the SIFT tool, specifically the NTFS3G file system, to mount the raw mount the volume itself, and then access the individual files and folders that are there. So now that we've got that mounted, we can actually use the exploring view, the Nautilus view of this GNOME terminal, to be able to see the files and folders. And you can see there's a lock on each one of the files because this is a read-only file system. But this gives you a great way under Linux to dig in and extract specific content as necessary. All right, let's pop back over to the terminal window. Now, let's say we need to take a look at that physical memory. What we've also got on the SIFT kit is we've got volatility. Now, volatility provides a tool and a process for analyzing physical memory. So what we're going to do is first we're going to find out what volatility profiles are available for our remote machine. We know from before that our remote machine is Windows XP Service Pack 3, so we're going to go ahead and use that profile and point volatility directly at that live physical memory file. So what are we doing? We are now going to run volatility directly against that file without making an image of it. And then we're going to turn around and list the running processes on that machine. So we're going to see the live running processes of the remote machine using volatility in real time. So there we can see volatility running, and there's our own process listed at the bottom. So let's recap here. We can leverage F-Response to attach remote physical devices, volumes in the case of Windows, memory. We can mount those devices automatically as live files and then turn around and create local or loopback devices to add them as an actual physical device. We can also run tools like volatility, sleuthkit, etc. against those attached devices to analyze their data. Now we'll go back to the actual graphical interface. Now we're going to go ahead and detach our individual targets. We'll go ahead and unmount the two Windows targets that we've mounted. And then once those are successfully unmounted, we're going to go ahead and use this same console to remove the software from all the remote machines. First, we'll start with our SSH mounted or SSH deployed machines, our non-Windows systems, and then we'll use our Windows systems. So you can see that F-Response under Linux, starting with version 7, is the complete solution. Not only can we run our license manager, but we can deploy and start the software on a remote machine and connect to individual systems. This really gives us a full kind of complete process of using F-Response in a non-Windows environment. All right, we've covered a lot of ground today. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. We're available on the website at www.f-response.com. In the bottom of every page is our support chat. You're welcome to hit us up, ask us any questions. In addition, you can send us emails, support@f-response.com. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.